I don't know if I'm gonna share this with anyone or whatever, but it was on my mind. I was like getting the flow of thoughts, and I was like, yeah, it's worth recording, so I figured I'd do it. But I just wanted to share some thoughts. I'm reading The Imposter Cure: Beat Insecurities and Gain Self-Belief. And it's talking about imposter syndrome, and one of the main points is that you're thinking you're an imposter, but you're not actually an imposter. There's a lot more to suggest that you're not an imposter than there is to suggest that you are an imposter, and that kind of thing. And just, stuff saying that negative beliefs aren't helpful, aren't good, aren't true, even. Um, and, the point is to see the truth on the other side. See that you are good, you are enough, you're doing what you need to. You don't need to feel shamed or bad or incompetent or anything like that. Um, and one of the things that I have in resistance to this is and this is also just in resistance to the idea of you know, if you don't try, you know, it's better to try and fail than not try at all. Or if you know, it's if you don't try, you'll never, you miss all the shots you don't take, or just stuff saying, just all those rhetorics about it's better to try and fail than not try at all, kind of thing. Like you're gonna be somewhere better, you're gonna make more progress, you're gonna you know be in a better place trying something, even if you fail, because you at least have moved forward in some way. Is vaguely the idea. But the thing with me is I feel like there are some failures that are worth avoiding, or there are the idea that if you fail, you're going to be forced to deal with an even bigger problem. And if you're already struggling, like that's bad. You're in a worse place than you were before. Just that idea of being in a worse place than you were before, or the idea of it's important that you learn from your mistakes, because if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're in a worse place, kind of thing. Like all of a sudden, if you make a mistake and that affects others, they're like, "Hey, it's okay, just don't do it again." And then you're like, "I don't know how I don't want to do this again, but I don't know how I keep myself from doing this again. I don't understand what I did. I don't understand how I did what I did, or why I did what I did. I don't know why I made this mistake. I don't know how I made it. I don't know how to fix it, or the idea of fixing it seems too overwhelming to me." Um, and now I'm in a worse place because there's an expectation that you should fix the mistake you made, or there's an expectation that you won't make it again because you already made it, so you'll learn, but you didn't learn, maybe. And so how do you deal with that? um and yeah, just the idea of if you encounter a failure and you don't learn from that failure, and you don't I don't know, it's I feel like I can so much more easily imagine and connect with the idea that you're in a worse place if you fail than you were before you tried, and or whatever. Like you have fewer resources, people have less patience with you, you know uh you have a bigger problem. Those are the things that I connect with when I think of failure, I guess. Now certainly there's definitely, I'm sure these are all typical tropes of you know things that people with negative mindsets and stuff that holds them back, these are all probably typical thoughts, but it also doesn't seem like they get addressed very much. Like I feel like I rarely ever hear, I can't, it doesn't seem like it gets mentioned or addressed, the idea that if you fail, you have fewer resources, or there are some things that are worth not trying, because they could set you back big enough. There's some things that if you there's some risks that the consequences would be very bad, very severe, worth avoiding the risk. or at the very least, like worth making sure you can do it right before you try, kind of thing. Because the consequences would be big, if you didn't get it right. Like driving a car without knowing, what's legal or not, without feel and like not just like going over the rules online, but actually like having it all memorized and understood and like instant recall. That's what you should have. That's what it seems like you should have. Um, as an example. Now, I don't actually drive that way. I've driven enough now. It used to be a very big problem for me, but I've driven enough now where I think I've developed a sense of trust and ignorance as I drive that like, hey, nothing bad's probably going to happen. Things are pretty simple. Most things are just a matter of like vaguely guessing or vaguely, staying safe. But I don't know. There's some things I've done enough where I'm like, yeah, I think this is how you do it, and this seems okay. But like, I don't know. I don't know if that's good, and I don't. Yeah, I don't know. That's just an example. But anyways, that's something on my mind. I just wanted to talk about that because I feel like it doesn't ever get addressed. Like the truth behind the negative perceptions or whatever. Um, they always make it seem like, oh, you're not focusing on the bright side, and maybe that they're not wrong necessarily, but I feel like they're not acknowledging the bad side. They're only looking at like the parts of the bad side that could be an illusion or that could be shallow or that could be a matter of interpretation, but they're not looking at like, I don't know, there are some risks that aren't worth taking, right? I mean, I don't know, as do they, would they disagree? And there's like, if you're already struggling, it's better not to try sometimes, because if you try and it gets worse, it's going to be that much more overwhelming. Or you should like, know how bad it could get and know that you're willing to deal with, the worst case scenario. I don't know. Just, I don't know. Again, it's probably showing my negative automatic alignment or whatever, but I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't get addressed. That's my perspective right now.